Oh no.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the next session. I am here with Nathan Lee as well as Josh Fonseca from the Denise Amber Lee Foundation, and they're going to be doing a session that's called Face That Fire, the Journey After Traumatic Events. I'm so honored and humbled to have you both here with us for Dare to Be Great 2 Fall Virtual Conference, and there are tons of people in the comments already talking back and forth. This is going to be an amazing session, everyone. Enjoy. And again, thank you both for being here. Take it away.
Thanks so much, Ricardo. Yeah, we got a little bit of sports bantering back and forth in the comments, but anyway, man, great to be here. Thank you all for joining our session. Again, Ricardo, just thanks so much for having us and letting us be a part of this awesome event, Dare to Be Great. Again, I got to just re-preface how freaking amazing all these sessions have been. Tyrell's keynote this morning was just freaking phenomenal. Doug, your sessions as always, man. Doug show for life, dude. Great job. And then all the ones yesterday, just unbelievable job. So it's just awesome to be a part of this. And I'm real excited about this session today. I'm joined with Josh Fonseca from Las Vegas Fire and Rescue, who's also an instructor for the Denise Amber Lee Foundation. I'm going to pass it over to him here in a second to introduce himself. But what we're going to talk about today is, recovering from traumatic incidents, and whether that is one, huge traumatic incident that you faced, whether it's in your personal life or your work life. I obviously, dealt with one in my personal life. Josh has dealt one in his professional life. And whether it's one big event or whether it's multiple small events that add up over time, I'm real excited to hear Josh tell his story, so that his journey of recovering from working the Mandalay Bay shooting on October 1st, 2017, hopefully it'll help you, put some tools in your toolbox to be ready. And he'll talk about the before and during and after and all that. So, but for those that don't know me, again, I've been on here a couple of times already, but I'm not going to take up a lot of time. This is mainly going to be Josh's show, but I'm Nathan Lee. I'm the president and founder of the Denise Amber Lee Foundation. It's been awesome. This ride that it's been for the last 12 years, it went from the worst moments of my entire life to, I just thank God every day with how blessed I am, with the new normal that I've been able to find, with all the amazing people in this 911 industry that I've been able to meet. I see a whole bunch of you in the comments. Dave Lynn from Hawaii. I joked earlier this morning, I'm waiting. I'm ready to come to Hawaii. I know COVID's put a little bit of damper. There we go. Damper on that. But anyway, I'm going to highlight one other thing. I know that you guys have hopefully seen my wife, Tanya's session. She's done an amazing job. We have 7 beautiful kids now between the two of us. I have my 2 boys, Noah and Adam, who are 14 and 13. I have my daughter, Avery, who's 10. And then we have Tanya's 4 girls who are 15 to 21. So, and the reason I bring that up a little bit more in detail than I normally would is Josh is catching up. He's almost caught up. He's got 5 of his own. So, but Josh, I want to turn it over to you. And then everybody, after Josh does his introduction, I'm going to walk through a little bit of my story, and then we're going to go into Josh's story and kind of do like a back and forth type, question and answer between the two of us. So please, at any point, ask questions, whether it's a question poll. It's easier to put it into ask a question because the comments get lost after a bunch of people comment. So if you have any questions for us, please throw them in there. So Josh, I will turn it over to you, my friend.
Well, thanks. Let me start off by saying I'm sorry if I stumble on my words. I just got off the night shift not too long ago, so here I am trying to be bright-eyed but still for y'all. So as Nathan said, I've got 5 kids of my own, ranging from 17 down to 3. Contrary to what he says, I'm not trying to catch up. According to the doctor, I am done. I've tried to fix that a little while ago. But anyways, I've been in the business for about 8.5 years now. I started off in May of 2011 at the Torrance County Dispatch Center in Torrance County, New Mexico. Yes, if most people know it as 35 miles east of Albuquerque, because it's one of those like, where's that? When you say that, they go, oh, I know right where that's at. But anyways, we were 2 people at a time, maybe 3 on a busy day, and we dispatched just about 4,400 square miles with the police, fire and medical, county and city jurisdictions. So after doing that for almost 4 years, the wife came to me and said that hey, I want to get closer to my mom. New Mexico is 13 hours away. You can come with me or you can stay here. Well, I'm like, well, let's go. That doesn't leave me much of a choice. So we moved to Nevada, which was closer to my son and a lot cheaper than California. Um, and like I said, I've been with the Combined Communications Center for almost 5 years now. One of my great friends is actually in here. Her name is Nina Newbert. She was my trainer on radios when I started there. So it's really humbling to have her in here watching me.
She's in
Hope I
Texas
don't
now, right?
disappoint.
She's
Yeah,
yeah.
that's right. She went to Texas.
Awesome.
That's me in a nutshell. I'm an EMDQ acting supervisor, and I have that's about it. Or a CTO, sorry. See, I told you I was going to stumble.
Awesome. And then we're going to jump into kind of, I mean, a lot of you have seen Matt Grogan's story. Matt's kind of been on the circuit training about the Mandalay Bay shooting for multiple years now. He also helps me tell my wife's story, the victim's plea 8-hour class. But Josh has got a different perspective. He took some of the initial calls from this incident. And so we're going to hit on that, but mainly just talking about, I know we both, Josh, you and I both have talked a lot before we did this session and trying to figure out how this was going to go. And I think we both really want to help others, learn from our experiences of how we got through the things we had to get through, right? And especially from your perspective, being a dispatcher, hopefully there's not a lot of dispatchers on here that really know what it's like to deal with an active shooter like you all had to do in Las Vegas. But every dispatcher has dealt with horrible events. I mean, whether it's officer-involved shootings, domestic violence calls, bad traffic accidents, kids drowning, like all kinds of things that just add up and add up and add up. And you've got some awesome insight on that stuff. So I'm again, folks, I hope a lot of you have been able to hear my story. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but I'm just going to kind of hit on it real quick. And there's a couple things that I want to highlight, mainly from the after. So those of you that may not be super familiar, my elevator pitch, get this out as quick as I possibly can, of what happened. My beautiful wife, Denise, was 21 years old back in 2008 when she was kidnapped and murdered. She was kidnapped from our home in Northport, Florida, raped for multiple hours, and then murdered by a total stranger who had no criminal history, randomly came by our house in the middle of the afternoon while I was at work, and kidnapped Denise in broad daylight, leaving our two boys, Noah and Adam, who were only 2 and 6 months old, home alone until I came home from work and called 911 after I couldn't find her, and started one of the largest manhunts that Southwest Florida has ever seen, because Denise's dad is a police officer. And it just started this huge thing. And so as the course of the night went on, there were some 911 calls that were made that didn't go right. And that's kind of the, how quickly it was in a nutshell. But Denise and I were like any young couple, but Denise and I were starting our American dream, right? We were in love, almost high school sweethearts. We met when she was a senior in high school. I was in college, but we started dating when she was 17. I was 19. We got married 2 years later, started off super young, and it was awesome. And, we had our two boys, Noah and Adam. Noah has been a challenge ever since he popped out. He's a great kid, thinks he's hilarious. No idea where he gets that from. But Denise was born to be a mom. And, you talk about, I've learned of a new term recently called trauma brain. And it's crazy, and I understand it really well now. And I didn't really learn about this until I got remarried to Tanya a few years ago and realized how much this has impacted me. A lot of the PTSD that I kind of suppressed for a long time. And you're going along like everything's fine. And then poof, in an instant, your whole world changes. And that day happened. We found out finally. Denise calls 911 while she's in the back of the kidnapper's car. We find out she's kidnapped. They're just this huge race, whole bunch of officers out searching for her. Finally, a lady who doesn't even know it finds Denise, doesn't know it's Denise, doesn't know she's even an adult. She thinks she might be a child, but she calls 911 reporting that she sees this person screaming and thinks they need help. And that call wasn't ever dispatched. The call came in, the dispatcher didn't put the information into the CAD. and it never got aired over the radio, which it was eventually entered into the CAD, but it was entered into the existing CAD log that was open for the disappearance. So the dispatchers never saw it. Not every officer that was out looking had a computer in their cars, and the CAD record was so long at that time, nobody really was reading it anymore. It was so long. So, but that call ultimately could have saved Denise's life. There was about 5 to 6 police cars within a mile of her location when that call came in, but none of them were ever told about it. And what made it worse was it was her dad's own agency that dropped the ball. And that's what, then turned into this national headlines. Michael King luckily was caught. He's on death row in Florida. And the media started knocking on my door, Today Show, Primetime, Dateline, Dr. Phil, and it was just this, this total whirlwind. And what's crazy looking back, Josh, is I was 23. And it's, I don't think there's any age that you're prepared to deal with anything like that, but I definitely know 23 wouldn't have been the age that I would have picked. But, that kind of, and then, then the foundation started.
Yeah. So, just to touch base on what you said about just letting people know about, the size of the event doesn't really matter. You've heard me say it before, and it's one of those things I like to get out there is what weighs more, a ton of bricks or a ton of feathers? It's the same weight. It's just how much it takes to get to that weight.
Right.
And a lot of us in this business discredit ourselves because that's what we get paid to do, or that's what our job is. And it shouldn't be like that. It should be, hey, this is something affecting me. We need to go from here and have the self-care, as you saw the poll go out. There's really 2 big questions I wanted to ask you coming into this. And the first one really is, how do you still have a head on your shoulders? How are you still able to continue and think straight after all this? Because, I can't imagine the whirlwind. And you just informed us all you were 23. At 23, you don't even know what's ahead of you in life. You're still thinking, yeah, I'm young. 30 is old type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny as we're doing this, we probably could have scripted this better, and you could have told me what questions you're going to ask me beforehand so I could prepare. But yeah, that's kind of how we wanted to do this. We wanted it just to be a back and forth, and hey, man, let's just interview each other because I think it's just super interesting. But yeah, a lot of dispatchers, I get that a lot. Thank you for not hating our industry. How did you get? I don't know how I could have done that or been through that, and I can't imagine that happening to my wife or my spouse. And I think it just comes down to I had to quickly figure out what I had a choice to make. And it really honestly didn't seem like a super crazy conscious choice. I don't remember thinking I'm either going to go down a bad path or I'm going to go down a good path. I didn't really have it laid out like that. I just knew I kind of somehow miraculously had this pop in my head was, okay, I need to do what Denise would want me to do. I have to try to do what she would want. And so I started asking myself almost every day, multiple times a day, what she would want. And I had the boys, thank God. Noah and Adam were so little. They were our family saving grace, and why our family still to this day with my in-laws. And I still call my in-laws. I'll forever call them my in-laws, Sue and Rick, Denise's parents. That's why we stuck together. But we all kind of made this choice. We're going to do what we've got to do, what's best for the boys, and Matt and I talk about a lot in our victims plea class where we talk about choices and controlling what you can control. And I feel like that's one of the lessons that I can maybe help convey on the dispatchers, that there's so many things thrown at you all the time that you have no control over. Literally you guys are in a comm center, the field units are out there, and one of the hardest parts of this job has got to be your hands are tied a lot because there's only so much you can do with the tools at your disposal to try to help these people that are calling and begging for help. So, I'm just blessed, man. It's just Denise somehow was beaming down and telling me that.
Do you think in some weird way it was kind of a blessing that the boys were so young, considering
Absolutely.
You had to be strong for them, and as you just mentioned, the whole family was, for that matter?
Yeah, definitely. Especially now, Noah's almost 15. He's 14. And I see the impact it's having on him now. Both of us when we were 2 didn't experience something traumatic like this. And he's having some effects from it. Nothing bad, he's doing great. It's just he's starting to kind of comprehend some of these things. But I'm definitely it was definitely a blessing in disguise that they were so little and they don't really remember a whole lot. But at the same time, like the other end of that coin, it's devastating for me to think about that they never really knew their mom. But it just, again, Tanya talked about it yesterday. It's the ripple effect. It's like these moments these choices that we make, the tough things we go through, whatever choice that is, it's going to, especially in 911, those ripple effects just keep going and going. And so even 12 years later, we still have effects from this. I mean, I'm sitting in a room that's Denise Amber Lee Foundation headquarters, and there's a Denise Amber Lee logo behind me. Thank you to Mike Aurora in Texas, who's awesome, by the way, and built that for me. And that's, it's just, it definitely was a blessing for sure.
So you mentioned the foundation now. Now, here's my second big question for you is, at what point, I'm not saying it was a day later, 2 days later, but at some point you made a decision of, okay, I'm going to go from pointing the finger at you to how can we make this better? And what went through your mind, and at what point can you estimate that those two paths kind of intertwined?
Yeah, I get that question a lot too, Josh. Thank you for not hating dispatchers, and listen, the only person to thank for that is every single dispatcher that I got to meet in the last 12 years. It was never a thought in my head. Obviously, my first exposure to 911 as a whole was not a very good one. I mean, even Denise's call arguably was not handled well. And so that night, the 911 system failed. And I'm not afraid to say that. Anybody that's seen our class and people watching this probably will agree. Yeah, it failed. It didn't work. It didn't work the way it was supposed to. But how this industry let me tell the story, because somehow, and maybe it was just the way I was able to get my presentations geared. My dad used to write all my speeches. We always try to turn this into a positive, like, listen, we're here to help. Like, we don't want this to happen again. And as more and more people, I started, telling my story and our story in front of so many other people and so many dispatchers, I started realizing how freaking awesome this industry is and how amazing you all are. And that's why. I mean, I give all the credit in the world to all the dispatchers that I've been able to cross paths with over the years, and helped me realize that, you guys were just as upset and frustrated as I was and our family was, and we want to do something about it. So let's do it. Let's figure this out. And that's kind of it in a nutshell, man. I'm just really thankful to have the opportunity that I have. And, my story is just totally evolved in the last 2 years. I got remarried, and I found this new normal and this new positive. And it's just like, okay, you just got to, again, like the title of your class, Face That Fire. Like, you just got to get through it. You got to keep going. You got to put one foot in front of the other and keep going. And, the boys and I just feel like we're the luckiest guys in the world that we got to be thrust into this family of a lot of girls.
I mean, and I'm not just talking about Tanya, and you said a lot of girls. Trust me, I got 4 of them. But even at the onset of your event, the family bond is what I'm hearing coming from you, that had it not been for the family, you probably would have been on a way different path than you and I sitting here right now.
Yeah, for sure. And Sue and Rick have been a huge support system. My parents, all my friends and family, all the new friends and family along the way. And I think that's just really the thing, is just don't let these. I knew I didn't want Michael King to ruin another life. Michael King already ruined Denise's, and he really seriously impacted a lot of other ones, including me, Noah, and Adam, and Rick and Sue. And I just didn't want him to ruin another life. And, and I think Denise would look down, and that's probably one of the things she's probably most proud of is our family. Like, our family stuck together, and we've had our ups and downs. I mean, Rick and I have a typical father-in-law, son-in-law relationship. I mean, we've had a couple moments, but it's with love, like we both are passionate guys. So, I love these pictures. This picture on the left, that's Noah, and I don't know what he's doing with his hair. That's just he's going through this phase where I don't know what his end game is, but, and that's Avery. This was her first softball game, that she just had. That's my daughter, Avery. And then these are like a couple weeks ago, but there's Noah, his JV football uniform, and then Adam's in 8th grade, playing football. So, happy ending.
Is that an Oregon shirt you're wearing?
It's an Oregon State shirt. My wife Tanya's from Oregon, so it's kind of like.
So you're throwing her under the bus already.
I've kind of evolved in maybe thinking it's cool to be an Oregon State fan. nobody likes the Ducks. So no offense to anybody watching from Oregon, but yeah. So that Josh, I want to get into your story, and I appreciate you divulging that, and we'll hit on that a little bit more at the end. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna switch over to your slide. Oh, this is the last picture I have. This is of our whole family. So just I don't know. I'm
Beautiful.
super blessed and love, and it's hey, it's. I'll tell you another huge choice I had to make was I had to let my heart give Denise. I had to let myself didn't let Denise go from that realm. Like I felt like I never could let anybody else in, and I knew it was going to be the perfect person. And go figure, a lot of you've been exposed that I finally did meet the perfect person. So, but yeah, there's our huge Brady Bunch family. I think that was from last year. So, but anyway. Oh, and sorry, Josh, I don't know how
Oh man,
presentation. I had to put this up there. Sorry, I got to digress.
man, just had to throw that filler in.
Yeah, this sucks, man. Go Bolts. Anyway, I almost put a Tom Brady picture in here too, but hopefully people think this is funny. I'm trying to let
Congrats on the Bolts.
a little bit of lightness in the middle of heaviness. Just let this slide stay on here for a minute or till the end of the presentation. I'm just kidding. But anyway, so Josh, just take us into set the stage for us, okay? And I know we're not here to just talk about the entire incident. We want to mainly get into the after and recovering from it. But just tell us where you were, set the stage real quick of what was going on, and then we'll keep it going.
Yeah. So to start off this, actually, it was probably about 2-3 weeks prior. As I've mentioned her before, my good friend Nina Newbert came to me and said, "Hey, I'm going to this concert. Can you work a 4-hour trade for me on Sunday, October 1st?" And I was like, yeah, let's do this. So my normal shift was 1400 to midnight. Since I went in early from her, it became 10 a.m. to midnight that I was working that night. And on Sundays, we did like a team building thing. We did like a potluck. Well, today happened to be breakfast for dinner. So being it's a dispatcher breakfast for dinner, as we all say, we had 15 pounds of bacon per person, 1 egg for the entire center. And so we went on and we were doing that. And the day was going any normal Sunday. It was my Friday at the time. So I was looking forward to decompressing and doing my last day before going on my days off. And then about 9 o'clock, 2100 that night is my lunch. So I go to my lunch for an hour and I come back, and the last 2 hours normally in my regular routine were to just decompress and, all right, let's prepare for the weekend. Let's read some books. Let's read a book while I'm doing this to just kind of get my mind off things already. And then I remember my first call was at 10:08 p.m. It was Metro law enforcement saying we have an active shooter at the Route 91 festival. At the time, 16 people down, 1 officer. And I was in my head, I'm thinking, all right, let's do this. And just the whole event, the moment that Metro officer and I disconnected, our lines just lit up like crazy. And it was normally, hey, this is Metro, can you join us? Or hey, this is Metro, can I get this? This was, hey, so this is a call at the shooting. This is a call at the shooting. This is a call at the shooting. And so right away, I was thinking, wait a minute, we got friends at the shooting. We had Mel Strader and Nina Newbert there, both really good friends of mine.
Nina's on here, by the way. You know that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so everybody, hi to Nina. She's in the comments, so thanks, Nina, for joining.
Yeah, and so luckily, another one of my coworkers was kind of texting them, guiding them where to go, where not to go. And then we found out they were safe, so while we were focusing on that, were trying to help them. And the moment we knew they were safe, we got call after call after call. I can't even describe what. A lot of people see, okay, well, I got this many calls holding. Imagine what you think is your worst and multiply that by 10. And then imagine even more, because you don't even know what's yet to come. So I was there working that night. I worked about 2 hours of the onset of the event. And we got calls from active shooters at least 5 different casinos. Now, on record, there was only one, but it was the wave effect, or the wake effect, as they say. People running from the event would run into another hotel and say, we have an active shooter. So therefore, their security would call us to say, we have an active shooter. And so it just created all these events. Plus, we got suspicious package call. We had a bomb call. We had a fire in a building call all at the same time. The fire in the building happened to be Metro breaching the door to try to access the individual. But all this stuff running through your head within that first 2 hours, even it takes a toll on somebody.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I just can't imagine. I think, even dispatchers that have been working 40 years, 50 years, taking call after call, that's, you never know. I mean, these types of incidents don't discriminate. So you worked this event. You were towards the end of your shift, right?
Yeah.
And so how long did you stay after? When did you go home?
So it's funny you say that. We were allowed to work 14 hours, and midnight was my 14th hour. And so I looked at the supervisor and I say, "Hey, look, I'm at 14, but I can stay. I understand this is such a thing." And she said, "Are you able, Letha?" She goes, "Are you able to stay? Can you stay?" And I said, "Yeah, I could stay." So on my way back to my phone, I was texting my wife. Being in New Mexico, working snowstorms, she knew that I would text her, "Hey, I'm going to be here longer. We got a lot of stuff going on. I'll be home as soon as it kind of calms down, so to speak." So I text her that, "Hey, I'm probably going to be here another 4 to 6 hours. I just off the top of my head." And she said, "Okay, do you need anything?" I'm like, "No, stay home. I know you're safe there," type of thing. And so all of a sudden I was there taking calls. And at this point Letha, the supervisor, was running back and forth from dispatchers to call takers to dispatchers. I mean, you want to see a chicken without a head, that's what that looked like. And so what I decided to try to help her out was I started answering her lines, which became emergency, non-emergency, and the supervisor line for people that had that special number to call in to speak straight to a supervisor. So I was doing all that, and a coworker of mine named Daniel tapped me on the shoulder and he told me to take a break. And no, I'm not taking a break. I'm in this. I'm not taking a break. He's like, "Josh, I just got back. Go take a break." I can't take a break, man. Josh, I don't have a place to go. Go take a break. So I said, finally, I relinquished control of my area because I was in my little half cubicle. That was my domain. I was in control. And I let him take over, and I went to Letha, and I said, "Letha, Daniel told me to take a break, but I can't. Where do you need me?" She goes, "Well," she looked around the room, and she says, "We'll go home." And I'm like, "No, I'm not going home. I can stay. I can stay." She goes, "Baby, we got this. Go home." And she's always had that motherly figure, like she's a mother, grandma. And I'm like, "No, I could stay." She goes, "Baby, go home." "Letha, I could stay." And right there, that "baby, go home" was okay, I'm serious. You need to go home. So I finally left. On my way home, got home, and my wife's upstairs in the room. And when I got home, there was at the time, I want to say at least 20 deceased and hundreds injured. I can't remember the exact hundreds. I want to say maybe 400 injured. And then I finally fell asleep about 3 o'clock in the morning. I was up by 7 because I couldn't sleep. And I turned on the TV again, and that's when we learned at the time there was still 48 deceased at the time, and in the 700s that were injured. And I can't tell you the wave of guilt that just came over me, because while I had other coworkers going in, I was the one that went home. And that's how I even look at it to this day. I've had many people tell me not to look at it but that's part of what drives me to this day. Was I was the one that went home. I know, but
I can understand, though. I get it. And all the dispatchers watching this, almost everybody on here, I would assume, is a dispatcher or part of the 911 industry. So I don't think there's a dispatcher watching that doesn't sympathize with you not wanting to relinquish, right? You don't want to go home. That's what this industry, public safety, is all about, is you're running into the burning building or running into the shooter, into the shooting, and not running away. Whether you're in dispatch or, wearing a bulletproof vest, you want to be there. This is, you want to help. That's why you guys get into this job. And it's something that I wouldn't have ever thought about, oh, I'm going to have this guilt trip come over me once you go home, and then you find out so many people perished. You didn't realize while it was happening how big of a deal this really was. You knew it was huge, obviously. And so when did you go home? Obviously, the next couple of days, I don't know, tell us about when you went back, when you started realizing something's not right. Like, this is Josh Fonseca, big tough, got a shell, used to be a bouncer at a casino in Vegas. Like,
No, valet, man, valet at a strip.
valet, sorry, whatever. Bouncer, valet. Come on, same thing. No, I'm just kidding. It's not the same thing. But whatever. You're not a small dude. You're a pretty intimidating guy, but tough, macho Josh, when you started realizing something's not right. I'm not okay.
So right after the event, as I mentioned, that was my Friday. I took my regular 3 days off plus one more day. So in a sense, I took off 4 days. And we had a little informal debriefing at that time, and we kind of discussed it. There was a lot of tears and a lot of tissue gone through. But I want to say it was probably about 2 months later, 2 to 3 months later, that I really noticed something was wrong with Josh. I was sitting at home, and as we mentioned, I've got 4 girls. When my most recent girl was born, ironically, 9/11 of 17. And so we're talking November, December, that I'm sitting there watching my little 2-3 month old, and I had another one that was just over a year old playing together. And 2 babies playing together, I mean, there's almost nothing cuter sometimes. But while I was sitting there, I was just full of anger. Not angry at them, I was just full of anger. And I couldn't determine why. I couldn't pinpoint it. Even though I'd went through this, I couldn't pinpoint it. And I was doing exactly what I said not to do at the beginning of this. That's what I get paid for. This is my job. I don't need to feel like this. We're dispatchers. We don't feel like this. And one day I'm on my way to work, and I'm a big Five Finger Death Punch fan. And they have a song called I Refuse. It's one of their slow ones. It came on, and I got so teary-eyed, and I started crying on my drive to work, of all places. And that's when I noticed I need to get me some help. I need to pursue this, because if something like that is setting me off to where I feel the way I do, something's not right.
Yeah.
And as I went in, I started looking through, and great thing, the whole time we had a great peer support group. So they were there with me, but there's just some stuff that being your coworkers, it's intimidating to tell them. Even though you shouldn't, they're still your coworkers, and it's intimidating. There's stuff you can't tell your family member because it's intimidating. And like you just said, big, strong Josh, big guy, I can't break down and be weak to my wife, who's, the rock of this house. I've always joked, I got 5 kids, she has 6, me included. So, I can't break down to her. So what I decided was I was going to get some counseling. And she told me, you can tell me everything you want and everything you don't want when you're done. My wife did. And I said, well, actually, I want you to go. And she said, are you sure? I said, yes, I want you to go to counseling with me that first session. I can't talk to you directly, but maybe if I talk to someone else while you listen, it'll help me. She agreed to go with me to my first session. The guy walks us to the back. His name is Andrew, gate guy. He walks us to the back, and he sits on a couch. I'm at one end, she's at the other. And he said, oh, wait, I need to go get some paperwork real quick. So while he's gone, she takes that opportunity to say, are you sure we're not in marriage counseling? Because, big old couch, opposite ends. You don't want to sit next to me. So he comes back, and we're sitting there, and I'm breaking down to this gentleman what exactly was going on inside me, where my head was, where I felt my head should be, that it wasn't, all this stuff that was causing me to literally cry in front of him. And when I got done, and I'm trying, wiping all the goop and stuff from my eyes, I looked to my right, and I have to say, and I wish I was exaggerating, but for every tear I cried, she's crying 4 of them right there with me. It was a very somber and quiet ride home that day from the counselor's office. Like, we got home, and you could tell she had time to process, and all she could say is, I'm here for you. It wasn't anything like, let me help you, why aren't you I'm here for you. I think at that point is where she understood that I'm going through something. We need to work on this together. He's not alone, but I also don't want to push him, and vice versa. I'm going through something. I need to find a way to work on this together, and I don't want to push you away.
Yeah, I know. I can sympathize with the emotional stability of a. I don't even know what analogy I want to use, but even now, I mean, a song will come on the radio, or it's always the telephone commercials, right? That just get you like a dumb and dumber. But but yeah, and that's one of the best things that can happen is, you go through something like this and people don't necessarily know what you're going through, and it's hard for them. They don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. And then people say, I know how you feel. And honestly, they don't, but in your situation, being in this industry, there are a lot of people out there that might know what Josh is going through and what Josh is feeling, especially, you start talking about peer support. It's not support, it's peer support, meaning these are peers. These are people that work in your job. These are all people that work in this city and are feeling this, and that everybody's there, but at the same time, you don't want to upset anybody. You don't want to bring it up and make somebody sad. And, it's a tough situation, no matter which way you look at it. So, this is a tough picture. I found this online, and Matt uses it in his presentation. Deadliest shooting in modern American history. Not something that anybody ever really is proud of. Obviously, we don't even mention the guy's name that did this. But so what did you do? You went to counseling. Your wife obviously has been a rock, still is a rock. I'm sure this is still. Is this still something that you're dealing with, and what have you done that you can kind of use as advice for all the people watching, whether it's these small incidents adding up or a big incident that they may face?
So yes, obvious, I am still going through stuff, but what I noticed that helps me is taking advantage of the small things and the big things. For example, I've just bought myself a new truck. That type, you spoil yourself. As small as it is, I am a big NASCAR fan. Well, living in Vegas, we just recently got 2 races a year. So what I used to do was we'd go to the race early in the morning, tailgate in the parking lot, watch the race, tailgate afterwards because it's hard to get out of there after the race, and then we'd come home. So I decided after this event, I'm going to take this one step further, and I'm really going to enjoy this. So from that year on, I actually started renting or purchasing an infield spot at the Motor Speedway up here. Oh. It's my way to get away for the weekend. There's nothing better than fast cars and barbecue all weekend and beer. Yeah. So that type of stuff. Take that vacation. Maybe drive a different way to work. Get out of the same routine. Just go a different way. If your routine's working for you, try to do something that enlightens it or changes it up a little, just so you don't get stuck in the same routine. Because although your routine keeps you solid, it can also, again, be a routine and keeps you where certain things make you think of certain times in your events or stuff that's happened to you.
Right. And yeah, and I know for me, it was just, I did the same thing. It was weird. We have very similar, like I bought season tickets to the Tampa Bay Rays, and that was my escape. I went to a lot of baseball games. They went to the World Series that year, and they lost. But it was still like, that was my escape. Like you're just, I think the biggest thing is, focusing on, okay, I can sit here and let these things weigh me down. And I know my wife, Tanya's watching this thinking you need to listen to your own advice, but you have all these things weighing you down, and you just have to stop and go, okay, I can't worry about this right now because I have no control over what's going to happen. Exactly. I don't worry about Michael King sitting on death row and when he's going to be executed. I can't control that. I have no control over it. I don't even give it a minute of thought. What I can control is my family, and not control them, but I can be more involved with my family. I spend more time with them. I can really focus on them more. And I struggle with that. There was a lot of times where I didn't make the right decisions, or I didn't, but I think a lot of people look back and go, well, you can't fault yourself for messing up or not doing something right after what you went through. But yeah, Gary, that comment, it just needs to Ricardo, can you delete that comment from Gary? I'm just kidding. It's just a joke. But, so you have beautiful kids. How have they been impacted by this at all?
I would have to say probably the older two. Just seeing their dad in a state they're not used to seeing him. My son kind of saw a little bit of it, but he lives with his mom, so he wasn't around for the full effect. But my older two probably saw me a little irritable and grouchy. And now they get the fact where I literally just let stuff roll off me. As you said, I don't try to control what I can't control. Even right after this, to this day, sometimes I have trouble with large crowds. I don't even want to imagine the people that were at the event, what they feel. But with large crowds and stuff like that, I find myself kind of getting anxious, and I kind of think, you know what, I can't control this. I can control being there, and if I decide not to, then I won't be. But once I'm there, I can't control what's going on. And so that's kind of my relief. And, as far as the girls go, they haven't really said anything to me like, whoa, Dad, you're weird. Well, they say that all the time because I'm dad. But they don't really, like I said, the younger two probably didn't feel it, but the older two, I'm almost positive did.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to hit on this, Josh, and as we scroll through some of your family pictures here, what's really funny is we have one of those same bears in our house. I don't know where it came from. And then there's a Hoover Dam, which is not far. It's just right there in Vegas, almost right outside of Vegas. So one of the coolest things, and I don't know if cool is the right word, you've talked about, I heard Matt talk about it, and he actually gives you credit for kind of really bringing this home. But that one, you guys, other than Nina moving to Texas, and I think one of your other dispatchers went to become a Metro police officer, your center stuck together. You didn't have a mass exodus. You didn't have nobody left because of this incident, because it was too much. Can you speak to that? And then also how kind of focusing on the positive, the guilt you were dealing with and how you were able to kind of counter that with, yes, 59 people perished, but
so we lost two, but we didn't lose two. Nina went on to Texas for better opportunities, and yes, Jordan was there, and she went on to become a Metro law enforcement. But Jordan was one that she would work at dispatch center for 10 hours, go jump on an ambulance rig and work another 6 to 8. That's her mentality. So now she became a Metro officer. I'm sure her life didn't get any slower, but we as a center, we stuck together. And I want to point this out that one thing I forgot to mention earlier is on a Sunday night, who's probably the ones working the most are your people there with less than 3 years. Only because we shifted by seniority, and nobody with high seniority wants to choose Sunday night at 10 o'clock at night.
How many people were working, Josh? That was one of the questions actually asked.
If I'm estimating 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, probably about 11 of us were on that night. That's including the dispatchers. So 4 dispatch positions, 1 supervisor, and one non-emergency EMS position. So the rest of us were call takers. So we had like 4 or 5 call takers, maybe 4 call takers on.
And Vegas is a secondary PSAP. Metro is a primary. Yes. Fire rescue does fire EMS and gets transfers from Metro. So just for everybody to understand. Anyway, go ahead.
So anyways, we had the peer support group that kicked in, that helped us. And as you said, we really didn't lose anybody, and we stuck together. And even to this day, there's just that unspoken language between the people that worked that night. And we're talking not just from 10 p.m. to midnight. We're talking 10 p.m. to, I believe it was 6 o'clock the next day, is when we finally could say, okay, we've gone through our response and recovery. Now we need to assess what else is going on. We're still in recovery, but the immediate onset of it. And so one thing I liked that really helped me motivate, even with the guilt, is they said there was an attendance to 22,000 people that day. So if you count 22,000, unfortunately 58 deceased, we still sent over 21,000 people home. Granted, some had injuries. So in a sense, we got to look at the positive and even the negative. And 21,000 people out of 22,000 went home that night, or were able to survive.
And a lot of that's because of what you guys did. The help that you guys got, you call there was a lot of calls Matt has explained to me that you guys that came in that wasn't like a life-threatening, needs immediate help at that moment, and you moved on to the next call. You guys took the time afterwards to call all of those people back to make sure that they were good, make sure they were okay. I love that. I don't necessarily know if that's common practice. Of course, this isn't an everyday occurrence. But I say 59 deceased because Matt told me that somebody recently succumbed.
Yeah, just someone in California just recently succumbed to her injuries at the concert.
Yeah, which is really sad. This is almost over 2 years ago. Almost 3. It was 3 years ago actually. Now we're on October 8th, so 3 years ago, a week ago. We're wrapping up this, Josh, and I want to hit on the one last thing. It was kind of the last question. I was kind of a two-parter, and I'm sorry. I have to get things out of my head in order to make sense. But your center was in a good place. I've heard you, Matt, Tina, who also works for the foundation. You guys, because of an incident that had happened a few years prior. I don't know if you were there when that really bad call happened, where Gwen hung up on somebody, but that started your QA program, and your culture really started to evolve. I think one of the biggest takeaways that I've heard you talk about is, you can train all day for an active shooter. You can try to think you're prepared, but if your center and your culture and you're not in a good place, whether it's self-care beforehand, and your culture as a center isn't good, it's toxic or burnout and all this stuff. That's really one of the biggest saving graces you guys had, because you were able, you all were in a good place and could get through this, and you had that support system set up. So if you want to just elaborate on that.
Yeah, that's again part of the peer support. There's multiple people that actually work every shift that are part of the peer support, and the ones that aren't are able to kind of recognize it. For example, if I'm on shift, no, I'm not on the actual peer support team, but if I see someone takes a rough call, I can text somebody I know that is, and they'll get in touch with that person right away. We've had even some people, her name is Jessica Smith. She's real great at the peer support. She will say, hey, can you go out of the room and call me? I need to speak to you now. There's that initial contact within the first minutes of the event or the call that they like to touch base on, just to make sure and find out where their head's at. And that plays a big role going further, because we know we have that support there, and we can just reach out anytime and anytime we want to.
Well, is there anything else? Let me look at the questions here.
I just saw Gary's question about the armed, and if those questions were asked, it was on the law enforcement side, maybe not so much medical. So I can't really say yes or no. I know I didn't receive any.
Okay. So, okay, and then can you talk about the CISD that was available to you and your team that was working?
So we had she actually just left. Her name was Angela Leith. She was our CISD coordinator. She came in and tried to talk with everyone personally. Like, she would, my shift was 14 to midnight. She made sure she came in within that shift to talk to me. And she was a big reason why I went ahead and got counseling, because she said there's avenues out there that you can take that you don't need to go through one of your peer for. They had people, because we're a combined communications center, we dispatch for Clark County, City of Las Vegas, City of North Las Vegas. So we actually had someone from each agency come in and check on us, because at that point we're all together. So county people came in and talked to us. We had a great response from New York City that came and talked to us and gave us some advice on what we can do and some steps to take for ourselves. And I can't tell you what that meant. Sacramento Regional Fire Communications Center, they sent 4 people into our center to call take, so the people that need to take time off could, and we weren't giving mandatory overtime to the people that were going to work and stuff like that. So all that coming together, really, I can't tell you how much it helped us, along with the cookies and cakes and stuff that were sent. That was great. I mean, I was like, what, as Matt says, I weighed 150 pounds prior to this.
Yeah, it's crazy. I look back, I was showing Tanya some pictures of like right after the incident, and I lost 30 pounds in 2 weeks. I didn't eat, and that's all that people bring you. When something like this happens, we had food, so much food, and it was amazing. You see the evil, and that's why I liked showing some of those after Vegas pictures, because you have this evil, you see the evil in society. You see the Michael Kings, the other, the Stephen Paddocks, the just are, have a special place in hell for themselves. Yeah. But you then see the other side, and you see the support from New York. You see the support of the city, Vegas strong. Like, it just, that's what you got to remember is, hey, there's a lot of good out there. And my big exposure, like yours, Josh, was this industry, and just how unbelievably awesome and supportive we are. And we you can't let your personal differences and all these things going on with the different personalities and all that really start to overwhelm you in the center, because if something like this happens, if a Denise Amber Lee happens, it really can affect the outcome of it. But is there any final thoughts that you've got? And just last kind of parting message for all the dispatchers from Josh Fonseca. Hey, this is what I want you to leave this presentation with, as we move into the next one.
Yeah, real quick, I do want to answer Angie here. As far as the set up a support and debriefing, it's try to get up to your higher ups and see what they can do for you. If you don't have one, try to start one. If you need a good avenue, Tina, at the foundation, she can help you as far as trying to set that up and see what she can do and get some pointers off of her. But if I have to add something to, not if I have to, I want to add something to this, and I want people to know it's okay to not be okay. Get the help that's out there. I have a class coming up here in late October as far as, to even go even further with Face That Fire. It's a play on the Rodney Atkins song. So if you get a chance, Rodney Atkins, that's a good song. But it's okay to not be okay. I don't know if you guys, anybody's Parks and Rec fans, but treat yourself. Get that car, take that vacation. Sign up for overtime, but don't sign up for as much. Don't make work your life. I do have to say that. Enjoy your kids, enjoy your family, enjoy yourself for that matter. I mean, go out, and I know a lot of us become secluded and recluse, that we don't want to go out and do anything, but take that chance and go do something that you wouldn't normally do. I took a trip to Washington, D.C. It's not something I would normally do, and can't tell you what it did for me.
Yeah, YOLO. And things like this that happen really open that up. Oh my God, life is precious. Like I can't take another moment for granted, and we still do, right? We're not, it's just human nature. And, but yeah, it's funny you say the recluse, and I guess I've never really thought of this in something very similar that I'm sure dispatchers deal with, but it's more of the repetitive just trauma to the brain, really, of all the stuff you all deal with. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that were in my life prior to this incident that aren't in my life anymore. And it's not because I don't want them to be. It's like that world was, I just stayed away from, I kind of shut myself off, and I went into the shell. I went into this hole, and I feel bad. There's a lot of amazing friends, and they're still there, right? They're still there, and they've never gone away. I just, it's not until recently that I've, finally let a lot of them back in. And, I think the biggest thing is that, I want people to know that hopefully it's kind of motivating or inspiring. If you, Josh, can get through this event, if all your coworkers of Vegas and Metro and can work through this event and still show up to work, then you all can do it. It's a choice. I hate that word, Matt Grogan, man. He just ingrained this in my head. It's all a choice that we make. Everything comes down to choices. I did that session in the spring called The Power of Choice. We make 35,000 choices a day, and it's a choice. We have a conscious choice. I'm not going to let this ruin my life. I'm gonna figure it out, and I'm gonna go one foot in front of the other, and we're gonna power through. And so I hope all of you take this away. Again, Josh, I have all of your contact. You can see the screen. We got our contact information up here. Josh has just developed a 4-hour training on this particular topic that he teaches. And we're real excited. The one this month was sponsored by Concept Seating, so it's a free training at the end of the month.
Thank you.
So go on there and register now. But Josh, I know Ricardo is probably in there somewhere. We did ask a poll at the beginning of class, and you will be proud to see that 74% said yes, they do practice self-care.
Awesome.
And 18 people said they don't. And so all of you 18 people, start practicing self-care. And if you need help with that, if you need more insight with that, shoot Josh an email. Hey, Ricardo is a resource, man. I mean, you need to take care of yourself. And because if you're not taking care of yourself, how do you expect to take care of all these other people?
What I hear, Sheila's pretty great too, so I'm sure she wouldn't mind either.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, Sheila. Yeah.
That's me putting her on the spot. You're welcome.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Sheila. Yeah, Sheila's in the comments somewhere. So yeah, thank you all for the nice comments about the presentation. I'm glad you all got something out of it. And
Aaron, real quick, sorry, Aaron. Yes, there is on the website. If you go on to the Denise Amber Lee Foundation and search classes, there's a little information in there, a little tidbit, and you'll see a picture of my beautiful smiling face.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
Yeah, just click on just class descriptions, and then you can click on that, and then go. There actually should be a schedule of virtual classes available, so they can go to that and click on those. So, but yeah, I just can't thank you all enough for being a part of this session. Take care of yourself. Don't forget why you do this job, and just be that lifeline for all these people that and. Don't forget why you do it. That's the number one thing.
Thank you, everyone, for what you do.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone.
Josh, rock star, man. Thank you for what you do. And thank you so much for wanting to tell your story and being willing, and able to tell your story. And just tell everybody at Vegas, thank you. And we hope you're doing well.
Ricardo, thank you so much for having us on, man. I can't tell you what this means to me.
No, this has been an excellent session. Thank you very much. For those who end up coming in to watch this on the replay, they're going to end up seeing like every one of those questions there. So if I can just get this one here, just so that when they go back and they can click on it, because I know you said this already, but Sheila had asked here how many people were working in the comm center when that call was received.
So if I'm estimating based on where I remember people were sitting, I want to say there's probably about 11 of us in there.
Excellent. So now when people go back and they actually click on that question, it'll go directly to this moment when you answered that. So that is all of the questions that were in there that you guys were asking. I made sure to click on those. So it kind of bookmarks all of those and people can go back. And also, just for all of you who are watching right now, and when you come back to watch on demand, in the bottom left-hand corner, there is a button called that says Clip Moment. You can actually clip 15 seconds worth of the sessions, and you can keep them for yourself, or you can share them with others. There are other ways to get that out there to share this awesome information. So, again, thank you both very much. Sharing your stories and just being real with everyone and getting personal. I think that's one of the best things about this, the interaction in the comments, and with every session that has gone on so far is the interaction and everyone just being just so open and having the courage to share. It really highlights that human factor and helps us all relate by just that power of storytelling. So this has been amazing. Thank you both very much. And for everyone who is here, again, make sure to reach out to them and get as much information as you can on the sessions and everything that is going on with the Denise Amber Lee Foundation. And the next session that's going to be coming up here is going to be on peer support, team development, implementation, and oversight with the Nina Wellness Group, the co-chairs, Pamela Poca and JC Ferguson. I will be bringing you all over there with me here momentarily. Again,
perfect segue.
Gentlemen.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
All right. Have a good one, everyone.